Hey everyone, and welcome. We've all been there, right? That heavy-eyed, can't-think-straight feeling that just builds and builds until you can finally crash. But what if I told you that simple, universal feeling has been one of science's biggest mysteries? Well, today, we're going to dive into a groundbreaking new theory that might finally give us a real physical answer for why we get sleepy. I mean, really think about it. Hunger is a signal your body needs fuel. Thirst means you need water. But what is sleepiness? What is physically happening inside your brain that creates that overwhelming, absolutely irresistible urge to just shut down? For centuries, this has completely stumped scientists. They could see all the downstream effects of being tired, but they couldn't nail down the actual physical trigger.
So to get to the bottom of this, we first have to talk about a concept scientists call sleep pressure.
Sleep pressure is pretty much what it sounds like. It's that feeling of tiredness that just gets heavier and heavier the longer you stay awake. Now, a tired brain does all sorts of things. Brain waves change, connections between neurons get weird, different chemicals build up. But here's the problem. It's been almost impossible to tell what's actually causing the sleepiness versus what's just a symptom of being tired. It's a classic chicken and egg situation.
So how do you even begin to crack a problem like that? Well, a team of scientists decided to hunt for a very specific molecular signal, and they started their search inside the tiny brain of a very, very sleepy fruit fly. They used this really incredible technique that's kind of like taking a detailed census of every single active gene inside thousands of individual cells, one by one. By comparing the brains of happy, well-rested flies with flies that they'd kept up all night, the hope was that some unique, consistent change would just pop out, a molecular breadcrumb that would lead them right to the source of sleep pressure.
And they found something. But it wasn't a signal that was all over the brain. No, it was super concentrated in just a couple dozen specialized neurons. These are the brain's sleep control cells, and the search had suddenly narrowed, like dramatically, from the entire brain down to this one tiny elite squad of cells. And what they found in those cells was just so specific. I mean, while other brain cells showed all kinds of random genetic changes, these sleep control cells had this massive coordinated response. And pretty much every single gene that got more active was related to one thing and one thing only, the mitochondria.
So this gave them a laser focus. Why on earth were the mitochondria in these specific sleep neurons suddenly going into overdrive? The mystery had moved from the brain as a whole right inside the cell's own power plants. Okay, so just a quick refresher for all of us. Mitochondria are these tiny little engines inside our cells. You can think of them as microscopic power stations. They're constantly taking the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe and converting it into ATP, which is the energy currency that basically keeps the entire cellular show running. Now, this is the absolute core of the new theory, and it starts with a really weird paradox. See, while you are awake and active, these specific sleep neurons, they're actually quiet, they're inhibited. But their little power plants, the mitochondria inside them, they just keep chugging along, making energy. This creates a big surplus of that ATP energy molecule with nowhere to go. The whole assembly line gets jammed up. And when that happens, electrons start to leak out, creating these tiny damaging sparks inside the cell called reactive oxygen species, or ROS.
And this wasn't just a hunch. The scientists actually measured it. They used these special sensors and found that after keeping the flies awake all night, the ATP concentration in those sleep neurons was 1.2 times higher than in the rested ones. The power plants were literally, physically overcharged.
Okay, so you've got all this metabolic stress, these damaging ROS sparks flying around. That doesn't just happen without leaving a trace, right? It leaves behind some pretty clear physical evidence that the system is starting to break down.
When the scientists actually looked at the mitochondria themselves, the change was just wow. In the well-rested flies, the mitochondria in these sleep neurons formed this long, beautiful, interconnected network, super efficient. But after a night of no sleep, that network was shattered. The mitochondria were small, fragmented, and broken apart. The power grid was literally falling to pieces.
And you can see the data right here. After sleep deprivation, the average size of those mitochondria just plummets. But then, and this is so cool, after the fly gets some recovery sleep, they don't just repair themselves back to normal. They rebuild even bigger and stronger than before, which suggests that sleep isn't just about resting. It's an active process of reinforcing that power grid.
Okay, so we've got a strong link here, right? Being awake leads to these mitochondria breaking apart, and sleep seems to fix it. But Is this fragmentation the cause of feeling sleepy, or is it just another side effect? To find out for sure, the scientists decided it was time to take the wheel.
And this is where they proved it. Get this. Using some clever genetic tools, the researchers could artificially force the mitochondria to either stick together or fuse, or force them to break apart. The result was absolutely astonishing. When they forced them to fuse and get bigger, the flies slept more. And when they forced them to break apart, mimicking that sleep-deprived state, the flies slept less. That was it, the aha moment. By directly controlling the physical shape of the mitochondria, they could directly control the fly's need for sleep. This proves it. The fragmentation of your mitochondria isn't just a consequence of being tired, it is the physical signal that creates the pressure to sleep.
So after this amazing piece of scientific detective work, what's the final verdict? What does this all mean for us and our daily battle with feeling tired?
The researchers wrap it all up with this incredibly powerful idea. Sleep isn't just some passive downtime for the brain. It's an active, absolutely essential process that evolved to deal with a fundamental problem of being alive, the damage that's caused by simply using oxygen to make energy.
So what's the big takeaway for you? Well, the next time you feel that heavy wave of tiredness wash over you, just remember what's actually going on. You're not just low on energy. You are feeling the physical breakdown of mitochondria inside the key sleep control neurons in your brain. It's your brain sending a direct signal that the damage from just being awake and breathing is piling up, and it needs to shut down for repairs. That feeling? It's the price of breathing.
This discovery just completely reframes how we think about sleep, tying it directly to our metabolism, to cellular damage, and even to the process of aging itself. And it leaves us with this huge, fascinating question. If the daily need for sleep is governed by the health of our mitochondria, what other profound mysteries of life, from how long we live to the diseases we get, are just waiting to be discovered inside these tiny, incredible power plants?